Lord's Prayer. In the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit, amen. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread. Forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. Pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call.
Councilor Donahue.
Here.
Councilor Elliott.
Here.
Mayor Martin.
Here.
Councilor Armand Murcia.
Here.
Councilor Rita Murcia.
Here.
Councilor Milanazzo.
Here.
Councilor Ramirez.
Here.
Councilor Broderick.
Here.
Councilor Caulfield.
Here.
9 present.
Okay. Before we begin the formal agenda, I'd ask everybody to please rise in a moment of silence and darken chambers in memory of Richard Barrett. Mr. Barrett was a devoted husband, father, grandfather, a veteran of the armed services of this country, and a very distinguished professor at the University of Massachusetts, Lowell. Died this past week and will certainly be missed here in the city. May he rest in peace. Before beginning the formal agenda this evening, we have a presentation from John Gear of Keep Lowell Beautiful. This was intended to be on the beginning of the agenda and inadvertently left off. Mr. Gear is going to speak to us just for a few minutes about Earth Week activities. Mr. Gear.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is John Gear. I live at 39 Alcott Street in Lowell, and I'm president of Keep Lowell Beautiful. I wanted to announce a number of upcoming events at the end of April and early May that you and the citizens of Lowell might be interested in participating in. First of all, just a little bit about Keep Lowell Beautiful. We're a nonprofit organization and an affiliate of Keep America Beautiful. We are in business to try to promote and foster the involvement of residents in litter reduction, beautification, proper solid waste management efforts. And as part of our mission, we're partnering with a number of government agencies, nonprofit groups, neighborhood groups, the education community, and the business community to sponsor and coordinate a series of events and cleanups in April and May we know as Earth Week Plus. These activities are designed to raise citizen awareness and involvement in keeping Lowell clean and beautiful. The Earth Week Plus events and activities start off on Saturday, April 21st, with distribution of rain barrels by Gunther Wellenstein, City Recycling Coordinator. That's happening at 220 Aiken Street at the site of the National Park Service Maintenance Facility. It's an opportunity for citizens, residents to collect or actually procure rain barrels for conservation of water. The following day, on Sunday, April 22nd, there's a community gardens open greenhouse also at that site at 220 Aiken Street. This is a community greenhouse that fosters beautification efforts in the city, also encourages citizens, particularly youth, to participate in that effort, grow flowers, distribute them among the city. That's happening from noon to 4 on April 22nd, and quite an event at the community greenhouse at that site. The following Saturday, April 28th, we have our annual Earth Day cleanup, and that's from 8 a.m. to 12 noon, and we're meeting at the Middlesex Community College cafeteria. We have a speaking program, and then volunteers will fan out across the downtown to help clean up canals and the Riverwalk along the Merrimack River. So we hope people can participate in that as well. That afternoon, actually, at April 28th, at noon, from noon to 3, there's an Earth Day Festival at the Rogers Middle School on South Common. There's environmentally themed education, fun, live music, hands-on activities for families. So that's happening again on April 28th at noon at the Rogers Middle School. Culminating Earth Week Plus is a cleanup on May 5th. And this is known as the Great American Cleanup. This one focuses on the neighborhoods throughout the city, and we will be working with Mike Damaris of Neighborhood Services in the city and others to help the neighborhoods clean up areas that they designate for cleanup in their particular neighborhood. That goes from 9 a.m. Till noontime. So a lot of activities. It's all really made possible by a number of partners, and I hope you bear with me while I give them some acknowledgement of the hard work they've been doing, including the Lowell Canal Water Cleaners, the Community Gardens Greenhouse, Lowell Parks and Conservation Trust, Mass Public Interest Research Group, Merrimack River Watershed Council, Middlesex Community College, University of Massachusetts Lowell, Lowell the Flowering City Committee, Mogan Cultural Center, Rogers Middle School, Greater Lowell Environmental Educational Alliance, Songest Industrial History Center, Greater Lowell Technical High School, Lowell High School, obviously the City of Lowell, Massachusetts Department of Conservation and Recreation, Lowell National Historic Park, and last but not least, Keep Lowell Beautiful. So thank you for the opportunity to address the council tonight. In closing, if individuals are interested in more information or to volunteer for these events, they can contact the National Park Service Volunteer Office at 978-275-1740, and residents can contact Keep Lowell Beautiful if they're interested in more information at our email address, keeplowellbeautiful@yahoo.com, or give us a call at 978-973-6710. Thanks again for the opportunity to speak before the City Council tonight. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Gear, and thanks to all of your partners. I know at this time of year, the city is the very grateful beneficiary and recipient of thousands of volunteer hours by not only your group, but the various partner groups that you mentioned. And certainly, if anybody is in the spirit to get outside and get things spruced up and looking a little cleaner, they couldn't do better than to work with the folks from Keep Lowell Beautiful. So thanks for your ongoing efforts and your continuing efforts year after year with this important event. Okay, anything further from council? We'll move on to the listed items on the agenda then. The first item, approval of the minutes for the April 3rd meeting.
So moved.
Motion approved by Councilor Caulfield, second by Councilor Broderick. All those in favor say aye. Any opposed? The minutes are approved. Under communications, we have several communications from the city manager in response to council motions and requests. Any question or comment there? Councilor Broderick.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Two comments. One is thank you for the report on the increased growth. It was both the residential and non-residential. Mr. Moses, thank you very much. And also, we got in our packet the financial management review from the DOR. We had talked about bringing this to, I think, the Finance Subcommittee. So I'd like to make a motion to send it there for review, and maybe you could schedule it and invite DOR up to discuss it in case I assume there'll be some questions, and if we could maybe I'll make that motion.
Yeah. Motion to refer the DOR report to the Finance Subcommittee for review and discussion by Councilor Broderick, second by Councilor Caulfield. All those in favor say aye. Any opposed? Matters referred to the Finance Subcommittee. Councilor Elliott, did you have an item?
No, Mayor, I was just going to suggest the same thing, send it to the Finance Subcommittee. And a good point, I think we should have Melinda Ordway up, as well as Christopher, her staff member to come up, because they compiled the report. They met with all the individuals. And, Mr. Manager, I think it'd be helpful to have the appropriate department heads as part of this discussion. Many have been implemented, but there are still some serious issues cited. A lot of them also are in the audit, not only this year, but in years past, that continue to need to be addressed. But I would like you to shed some light, Mr. Manager, on particularly the Treasurer's Office and activities that you have explained in the past. But we did receive an email, and calls and concerns continue on operations in that office. And I want to reassure the people at home that money is not missing. There is a backlog, and there is a need for additional staff to literally open tax payments, excise bills, etc., that have been backlogged. There has been a backlog in the past, but I know we've hired staff, we've made transfers, we're catching up, but we were, things hadn't taken place for a while. So, Mr. Manager, if you can elaborate on that email that you sent me, which really outlined some of the things that you've done so far.
Sure. If I could just address the issue of the DOR report. I've already spoken with Melinda Ordway from DOR, and we just received the report late on Friday, and I wanted to get it out in the packets to you. But I did speak with her, and she's more than happy to come up and make a presentation to the subcommittee or the City Council, and so we will arrange that. We are still going through it ourselves to understand all the recommendations, and we will be meeting with all the members of the financial team and all the affected departments to begin the implementation. Many of those, if you notice, many of those issues that they raise are issues that we've already discussed with the City Council, and actions we're already taking. So I was very pleased that they seemed to put an endorsement on the actions that we're taking as a community. With regards to the Treasurer's Office, I think we are making tremendous progress. We've taken a number of steps since we started talking about this about a month ago. Obviously, the issues, I say started talking about a month ago, but obviously the issues go back much farther. I know that there have been motions filed going back over a year regarding many of the issues in the Treasurer's Office. But let me tell you what we have already implemented, and we were in the process of implementing when Mr. Rosengard had his heart attack and left the office for a period of time. We have worked to merge the parking department, parking office with the Treasurer's Office. That will bring 3 additional staff people into the Treasurer's Office, and they'll be cross-trained to be able to do all collections work. This isn't a radical idea. It's actually referenced in the DOR report, but this is something that goes back, I know, about 7 years now to the former CFO, Barbara Haig, had made this recommendation to then City Manager and subsequent City Manager. So that's something I'm very pleased that we've been able to accomplish, that we will be moving forward with that. We have also increased the hours of the existing staff that are there. They've only been working 35 hours a week. We have increased those to 37 and a half. We have provided them with some overtime. They've come in one Saturday now. They will be coming in at least one more Saturday to do some catch-up work, and they're very pleased with what that's been able to allow them to do. As I've indicated, we are moving forward with implementing new software, Munis modules that will allow for more efficient operations of the Treasurer's Office, and in part due to the ability of other departments to be able to transfer information to the Treasurer's Office electronically with their deposits, and that will go a long way towards cutting down on some of the staff time needed to keep up with the work there. We have moved the attorney that's been working in the Treasurer's Office and his staff person out of the Treasurer's Office upstairs, in the process of doing that. That will allow the Treasurer's Office more workspace to do some of the backroom work that's needed that they aren't really able to do out at the front desk. So that should allow for more efficient operations. We've also moved the mail function from the Treasurer's Office to the Elections Office, thereby freeing up the individual in the Treasurer's Office to do a treasurer-related work rather than mail, processing of mail for the City Hall. And that, too, will go a long way. And I think finally the other item is we've implemented a new phone system that many of the staff people were very frustrated with, the problem that they couldn't take one call, place it on hold, and then answer another call without placing the phone down and having to run to another desk. So it seemed like a very simple process, simple issue that needed to be addressed, and we've done that as well. I think that we also authorized a temporary employee, and we brought on a consultant. As you may recall, we brought on a contractor to do the necessary reconciliations that are referenced in the DOR report as well. So I think we've made a lot of strides in addressing many of the issues that are there. We're catching up on the work, and I'm hopeful that will get us totally caught up, and then it'll be smooth sailing from there.
Okay, thank you. I'll look forward to getting this report. Still have a lot of questions having gone through it, but as you mentioned, some of the things are recommendations that we are working on, modifying the budget format, setting up enterprise funds, even things that certainly have to be negotiated through the collective bargaining agreement, recommending biweekly payroll, direct deposit, all will cut down on staff time, energy, and streamline the process. And I thought that was probably one of the most important sort of salient points, if you will, that there are some things recommended that, that we haven't looked at to streamline and make things a little bit easier to do and provide more accountability. So thank you, Mr. Mayor, and we'll set up that subcommittee next week or, the following week whenever the rep from DOR is available. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. Mr. Manager?
Just one last point. You mentioned, Councilor, the issue of collective bargaining, and there is the issue. Some of those issues are on our radar screen in terms of collective bargaining. Some of the language already exists in some of the contracts, but not in others. But we will be. They will require some issues there. But that reminded me that I would be remiss if I didn't indicate that the cooperation that we received from the collective bargaining units in the city that are involved in the Treasurer's Office, particularly 1705, in terms of making a number of these changes that we've put in place. So I want to thank them for their cooperation.
Anyone else on questions or comments, communications from the city manager? Councilor Armin Mercier.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. Are there any recommendations there that would require ordinance changes?
There will be some changes that require ordinance
So
changes.
that will be identified when we have that subcommittee report?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Councilor Broderick.
Thank you. One last thing is there was a letter on our desk this evening regarding the Judicial Center.
Yes.
And it seems like you've reached an agreement or tentatively to put it in the Hamilton Canal District?
We've been having discussions, as you know, with DCAM and the state delegation regarding possibly locating the Judicial Center at the Hamilton Canal site, or a portion of that. We had a couple sites picked out that DCAM found difficult to work with, but we had a meeting, subsequent meeting with DCAM that in which they indicated interest in one particular site closest to Thorndike Street at the end of Appleton, that general area that we're looking at now. We got word today from the delegation. The delegation had a separate meeting with DCAM, and everyone seems to be in agreement that that's the one that makes the most sense, given the fact that the state is going to be investing $100 million in this. The delegation was very concerned as to how this would all work out. They did a great job in working with us on this. It's certainly not finalized. We have to have some more meetings with DCAM and talk about a number of issues, including price, because the city obviously paid for this property, and we need to make sure that the city recoups the funds it has invested. But we think this will be a positive for the city and for that project. We've been talking to the developers that are in the running as being master developer. They all seem interested in now the possibility of this occurring in a portion of that site. I say it's a win because it will help us with the number of areas. One, it will jumpstart some of the development in that area with subsequent or ancillary uses, law offices, restaurants, and so on. It will help us with immediately filling up that parking garage, which the city has invested a sum of money in, and we think that it will be a nice gateway building for the city. It was coming to the city, we think that the more prominent it can be, the better it will be for the city.
It's great news. It sounds like the delegation did a great job. Thank you.
Councilor Caulfield.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The manager gave me this news early, and I'm very happy about this. And building the Judicial Center in the Hamilton Canal is certainly a plus. It's going to be a domino effect for that entire region, to that entire area, and I'm very happy to hear that.
Okay. Anything else on manager communications? Councilor Milanazzo.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. You mentioned, Mr. Manager, in your letter that you'd like to refer this to the Economic Development Subcommittee, so I don't know if we should put that in the form of a motion to have the communication referred to the Economic Development Subcommittee. I'd be happy to put that in the form of a motion.
Okay. So moved by Councilor Milanazzo, second by Councilor Donahue. All those in favor of that motion say aye. Any opposed? The matter is referred to the Economic Development Subcommittee. Other items under communications from the city manager. Hearing none, a motion to accept the communications from the city manager placed on file by Councilor Ramirez, second by Councilor Elliott. All those in favor say aye. Any opposed, the communications are accepted. We have other communications from the city manager, too, concerning out-of-state travel, both from the police department. Dear Mayor and Councilors, attaches a request from Ken LaValle, Acting Police Superintendent, to send one employee of the Lowell Police Department to Washington, D.C. to accompany the Lowell High School Air Force Junior ROTC cadets on their annual trip. This travel will take place April 11 through 15. There'll be no cost to the city. And second, also from Ken LaValle, Acting Police Superintendent, to send 3 employees of the Lowell Police Department of Portland, Maine, for a domestic violence training seminar. The seminar will take place May 22nd through 23rd. The funds are come from the Violence Against Women account grant, I believe. If you have any questions regarding this, please do not hesitate to contact me. Thank you, Bernard F. Lynch, City Manager. Any questions? Motion approved by Councilor Donahue, second by Councilor Broderick. Roll call, please.
Councilor Donahue?
Yes.
Councilor Elliott?
Yes.
Mayor Martin?
Yes.
Councilor Arman Mercia?
Yes.
Councilor Rita Mercia?
Yes.
Councilor Milonazo?
Yes.
Councilor Ramirez? Yes. Councilor Broderick?
Yes.
Councilor Caulfield?
Yes.
9 yeas.
9 yeas, the requests are approved. Next item is a resignation from the Taxi Commission, communication from the city manager to Robert A. Doyle. Dear Mr. Doyle, this letter acknowledges receipt of your letter dated March 30 in which you resign from the Taxi and Livery Commission. Your resignation is accepted. I'm filing your resignation and this acceptance thereof with the City Council as required by law, and also forwarding copies as a communication to the City Council. The City of Lowell appreciates your service as a member of the Taxi and Livery Commission, and on its behalf, I extend thanks. Very truly yours, Bernard F. Lynch, City Manager. Motion to accept the communication placed on file by Councilor Broderick, second by Councilor Elliott. All those in favor say aye. Any opposed? The communication is accepted. Next item is a vote accepting the provisions of Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 71, Section 71F, regarding all monies received by the school department as tuition payments for non-resident students by accepting tuition students into selected special education programs on a space available basis for the 2007-2008 school year and thereafter. Motion to waive the full reading by Councilor Broderick, second by Councilor Donahue. All those in favor of waiving the first full reading say aye. Any opposed? The first full reading is waived. This item is to be referred to a public hearing on April 24th. Motion to so refer the matter by Councilor Broderick, second by Councilor Elliott. The matter be set for a public hearing on April 24th. Next item is a resolution to permanently protect certain parcels of land in the city of Lowell for public recreation purposes in furtherance of the Concord River Greenway development. Motion to waive the first full reading by Councilor Milonazo, second by Councilor Broderick. All those in favor of waiving the first full reading say aye. Any opposed? The first full reading is waived. Second reading by title, a resolution to permanently protect certain parcels of land in the city of Lowell for public recreational purposes in furtherance of the Concord River Greenway development. Questions? Oh. Okay.
Move approval.
Motion approved by Councilor Arman Mercia, second by Councilor Caulfield. Roll call.
Councilor Donahue?
Yes.
Councilor Elliott?
Yes.
Mayor Martin?
Yes.
Councilor Arman Mercia?
Yes.
Councilor Rita Mercia?
Yes.
Councilor Milonazo?
Yes.
Councilor Ramirez? Yes. Councilor Broderick?
Yes.
Councilor Caulfield?
Yes.
Okay, that brings us to the public hearings. First public hearing scheduled for 7 p.m. is a loan order to borrow $1,957,600 for the purpose of financing the costs of engineering services for plans and specifications for the design of modifications to the Lowell wastewater treatment plant. We'll open the public hearing to those wishing to speak in favor. Anybody wishing to speak in favor of this loan order? Anyone wishing to speak in favor? Hearing none, that portion of the public hearing is closed. Anybody wishing to speak in opposition? Anyone wishing to speak in opposition? Name and address, please.
My name is Patrick O'Connor. I live at 38 Faux Street in the city of Lowell. I'll just say good evening to everybody here. Nice to see y'all. As you all know, wastewater is an enterprise fund. It is run by the users, and the cost of the enterprise is paid for by the fees that are charged to the users, and has been for a number of years now. I guess the biggest question here is that, is this bond going to raise the fees to the users? Is it going to cost more money? And if it isn't going to cost more money, the next question would be, are we charging too much money now if we don't have to raise more money for that? I mean, these are many different questions that should be answered here by this council. The reason I ask these questions is because the very first of this fiscal year, we took $1 million out of the enterprise fund, put it into the revenues of the city to offset the expenditures. In 2006, we took $2.5 million out of this enterprise fund and put it into the revenue section of the city to offset the expenditures. And that tells me that we seem to have a surplus of money in this enterprise fund. There seems to be no actual entity of an enterprise fund that you can find anywhere in the budget. Another thing that I'd like to talk about, just recently, as of two weeks ago, you transferred, I think, $790,000 from the enterprise fund into the wastewater system. And part of that money was used for the repairs of levees and dams or whatever under the Army Corps of Engineer project that we had with the recent flooding. Now, one of my questions is, why does that fall under the purview of wastewater? I mean, why is that that part of it? Second of all, this city charges a boat excise tax. In order for a city or town to charge a boat excise tax, they have to establish a municipal waterway and development fund in which 50% of that money from the excise tax goes into this municipal waterway and development fund, used especially for these type of occurrences, to fix moorings, to fix anybody that has a lake or a river and whatever that has a commercial waterway, which we do. And they should be used for that. Well, we don't have that. We charge a tax, but we don't have the means to pay for anything. I think that's a little unfair to the people that pay that. And I remember as being one of those people. Another thing, that particular item, as far as the locks and levees, or dams and levees, went out to bid. Are you telling me that we don't have people in this city that could have repaired, that could pile some dirt and cut down some brush and, and things like that to fix it? There's nobody in the city that could have done that. We had to put this out to bid. I mean, that didn't make much sense to me. It seems that there's a lot of money in this system. Now, if there's an enterprise fund, is there still money in it? I don't know. How is it actually established? I don't know. They're supposed to have a reserve fund. The reserve fund is supposed to be used and set aside for capital expenditures. Where's that? Do we have money in that fund? It doesn't make sense to me. We just bonded, I think, a number of millions of dollars for the CSO. Why was this design charge not included in the CSO bond? And why isn't it going to be in future bonds? I'm concerned about the taxpayers in this city and the people that pay for this. Another thing that I have read in the law, and I'd like to know whether or not it's absolutely true or not, it says in the enterprise law that 120 days prior to the fiscal year, the beginning of the fiscal year, that a full budget is supposed to be presented to the city manager and to the council, and supposed to be acted on, just like any other budget in the city. Now, has anybody here ever seen that? You're a council, did you get a budget? I mean, 120 days, that was just a month ago. It should have been presented. Anybody ever see one? I don't know. I mean, these are important things to the people of this city. Maybe it's only important to me. I don't know, but I'm trying to make sure that the funds in this city get expended properly. And there's an awful lot of money being put into this system that if you can transfer money out of the enterprise fund and then all of a sudden now you have to bond more money for the enterprise system, it just doesn't make much sense to me. You're our leaders. You're supposed to be asking these questions. And I'm just asking, do your job. Thank you very much for the time.
Thank you, Mr. O'Connor. Anybody else wishing to speak in opposition? Anyone else wishing to speak in opposition? Hearing none, that portion of the public hearing is closed. Councilor Rita Mercier.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you to Mark Young, I was just wondering, is there money in the enterprise fund that Mr. O'Connor was talking about?
Council, I'm not exactly, have the exact figure of the enterprise fund right now.
But there's money still in it?
Yes, there is some money in the enterprise fund.
Mr. Manager?
The auditor?
If I may, Council, there's about $9 million currently in the enterprise fund, and that's
When do we ever use that instead of bonding money?
we used. What we have been doing the last couple of years is we've been taking a portion out of it into the general fund to repay the city for the expenditures that we've made ahead of time, but we've over the years where we're running at a deficit in that enterprise. But also, it's all part of the financial plan that we have to make the improvements to do the CSO project, that we would have that money on hand, and that's basically what's enables us to stabilize the rates.
So what is this, how is this bonding tonight? If I vote yes on this, and I believe it is very important, we need to correct different functions that are breaking down at the wastewater treatment plant, and that odor is a very serious problem. I mean, people pay good taxes. I don't think they should be subjected to a malfunctioning piece of equipment from the city, and we are not going to maintain it and correct it. So how is this going to affect our tax rate if we're bonding? I mean, I want to ask you this every time you come into us for money, because you know what, Mr. Manager? You're not putting the people in any jeopardy, because you're just suggesting we as a council, we're voting, we're at fault, no matter what. So I'm asking these questions every time you come to us for money. How close are we getting to say, yes, this has to be done, but we will be raising taxes because of this vote? I have to know that.
Well, Councilor, I take my recommendations very seriously in terms of making them. I recognize that you vote them, but I take them as if I had to make the decision myself. Otherwise, I wouldn't make the recommendation. This will not increase taxes at all. It has no impact on taxes. This is paid for through the user fees, and as we've indicated, this is the fact that we have a reserve in there, and the work that we're doing throughout this project, the CSO project, and the upgrades to the plant and the upgrades to the system is really part of our ongoing maintenance efforts, and it's all built into the fee structure that we currently have in place. At some point in future, yes, the rates may have to increase some, but we don't anticipate that happening for the next several years. In fact, the city of Lowell has one of the lowest rates in the state for its sewer system.
See, that would have been my next question. Will the user fee go up? Will the rates go up?
Not for
Okay,
a period,
so
not
that's
for
why I have
a
to-
number of years.
That's why I have to ask these questions.
Absolutely, it's an excellent question, and one that has to be considered. On the other hand, the other part of the equation, though, is you have to look at the fact that we have a system that's worth millions and millions of dollars. The plant itself, and then all the pipes in the ground are worth, one would guess, probably somewhere in the vicinity of a couple $100 million that needs to be maintained, and we have to do that, or the repercussions are far more severe. So this is all part of that process.
And I find it so amazing that people from Russia and the Ukraine will come down to the city of Lowell just to check this all out, to see how magnificent this is. I think this is quite an honor for the city of Lowell. I certainly want to maintain our reputation.
Right, absolutely. If I could, just one point, in terms of the boat excise fee, the city only receives about $2,000 a year from the excise fee, which is certainly inadequate to fund the work along the river.
Mr. O'Connor's the only one with a boat.
We don't have a boat. Thank you, Mr. Manager.
Thank you, Councilor. Anyone else on this issue? Councilor Donahue?
Thank you. Well, this is a project that we've talked about a long time here on the council floor for many, many years. And, you know, I'm certainly going to support this. It is within the current fee structure, but more importantly, it's addressing what has been, you know, not only a quality of life issue, but for many people, you know, it's almost a health issue when they have to close their windows on a regular basis because of this defect in the plant. So I certainly support this, just as I've supported the CSO projects and things that we must do. I think this falls into that category.
Councilor Caulfield?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have the same questions as some of my colleagues, as well as Mr. McCarthy. Now, the last time I looked at the enterprise fund, it was approximately $9 million in that fund. And I question, why aren't we using at least a portion of this loan from the enterprise fund? Now, the biological treatment system improvement, odor control, I agree that that has to be addressed. It's $585,000. The council, I believe on a vote of 6-3, transferred the money from Drake, Tewksbury into that enterprise fund to address that. We could be using that money to supplement that cost of $585,000. I just question, why aren't we using a portion of the enterprise fund, Mr. Manager?
Well, Councilor, we are
Even if it's
using,
only $500,000.
Councilor, we are using the enterprise fund.
How?
It's the enterprise fund that will pay for this bond. The enterprise fund pays the debt service on this bond. And this, keep in mind, this is just design and and assessment. There's still going to be capital costs that come with this down the road, just like there's going to be capital costs with the further implementation of the CSO project. And it's the enterprise fund that pays the debt service on all of that.
Then why are we bonding the money? Why are we going off for bond? If the money is there, why are we bonding it?
Because it makes more sense to actually borrow the money and pay it off over a period of time. It's a much more stable manner in which to finance this project. This project is going to have a life of some 20-plus years. It should be bonded out and paid for over that 20 years to the people that are going to benefit from it. If you were to draw down the entire enterprise fund now and to do all of these things, you wouldn't have adequate reserves on hand within that account, and then you wouldn't have the necessary funds to do the capital improvements that result from this, which would then occur. What would then occur is you would have to raise your rates.
You know, it's a very important facility. The towns of Chelmsford, Drake, Tewksbury utilize as well as Lowell. Mark Young and the staff do a fabulous job there. The plant is impeccable, it's clean, it's run efficiently, but I just question, why aren't we using some of that money from the enterprise fund? I know what you're saying, but you have to hear what I'm saying as well. If it's $1.9 million, why couldn't it be $1.5 million? And a portion of that money is coming from the fund.
Councilor, $500,000 on a 20-year bond.
How much interest are we paying on this over 20 years?
Do you have a number for that?
We'll probably pay in the range of 5% a year. So the first year is $100,000, but it declines to zero over time. I think what the manager is saying is one of the central tools to financing any asset is matching the assets and the liabilities. Most people don't build buildings without financing them, even if they could. A person who could buy a house worth $300,000 or $400,000 outright, even though they may have the money, often gets a mortgage because they expect to live in that house over a long period. We're financing the infrastructure of the city and trying to match the debt associated with that infrastructure with the life of the asset itself.
You know, I know where you're coming from, but you have to understand where I'm coming from as well.
I do, Councilor.
Councilor Broderick?
Thank you. I'm going to support this. I remember we took a 6-3 vote to send money from a settlement, which is going to be paid over a couple of years, I think, or 3 years, into this account. My understanding of it was that it was going to be used as a stream or part of a stream of income to support ongoing infrastructure repairs and the CSO project. I wouldn't support transferring $400,000 or $500,000 out of here, because if we were going to do that, we're going to be looking at raising the rates sooner, because we're going to deplete this as the CSO projects come online and we start bonding upwards of $60 million, I think, the next phase, or next part of Phase 1. I understand what Councilor Caulfield's saying, to lower the bond payment and lower our debt right now, so we don't raise taxes, but the reality is that this is the way it's been set up, and to take a shortcut of starting to deplete our resources over there before we even have the bulk of our costs online, it doesn't make sense to me. So I'm going to support this, and I supported sending the money over there to actually bring, to hopefully help finance, is what we're doing, help finance making the corrections. Thank you.
Councilor Armin Mercier, did you have anything on this? No. Councilor Elliott.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think this is one of the most important steps we can take with that facility that has not been done in close to 27 years. This is a combination of addressing the odor issue as well as making infrastructure improvements at that wastewater treatment facility. So I clearly, this is a no-brainer that we have and we should be doing it. But just to answer some of the questions that Mr. O'Connor had, this is an enterprise fund, and I just want to let people at home know that we're not just frivolously transferring money in and out. We're operating on a shoestring here, and while there may be money in it, we also have a $65 million consent decree to address CSO issues that has been outstanding since 1989 from EPA. And as the manager indicated, once that debt comes online, we're going to be close and operating almost and hopefully not at a deficit. That's irrespective of other infrastructure improvements and I took a tour of it probably about a year and a half ago, and it is in desperate need of upgrading. I know it's not a great subject. It's it's a service that people expect, and we know that as soon as someone's sewage backs up, it's a major problem, but as long as it's operating. So we have to make this investment. And while it might be $9 million in there now, those rates were raised to address infrastructure improvements, but in large part the CSO. And in terms of money going out to the Pawtuckaville area, we did invest some money to address some of the flood issues through the tide flow valve, which will prevent huge costs in the future, or backups that the city, if we don't address it, there are claims that, and rightfully so, should be submitted. But I just want people to know that, we're managing this as tightly as any other enterprise fund, and it should be managed itself, and it's being run like a business. Money is going in. If there is extra revenue, it's going to capital improvements, so it's not going back in the tax rate. And we do transfer $1.1 million out, and we have over the last several years because DOR allowed us to. Again, we need permission to do this, and that's for debt that has been incurred, both operating and project debt over the years. And I believe this is the last year, Mr. Manager, correct me if I'm wrong, that DOR is going to allow to do that. We also do indirect charges to the wastewater fund for employees' time and effort that, whether it's processing, PRs or payroll that wastewater does. So, I think, in my opinion, it's being managed as its own entity, as it should. I think, we're looking at doing the same thing at the water treatment and the parking garages. So if there is, revenues left over, we're not coming back to taxpayers and say, look, one of the garages needs a new elevator, as been in the past. That goes on the tax rate. So I'm going to support this. This is clearly a step in the right direction. It's a long-standing problem for people in that area that, we've been waiting for for resources to come in. We finally had that settlement of $1.1 million that is going to come in. That's going to offset the odor remediation in itself, and it's coming in, Madam Solicitor. The payments are coming in within a few years.
Right, they're coming. I believe there's already been initial payment, and they'll be continuing over the next couple.
So again,
of years.
that's going to go into the enterprise fund to, in my opinion, fund the odor problem over there. That we finally have the money. We've been saying we don't have the money. It's finally here. I'm going to support this. It's the right thing to do.
Thank you. Councilor Rita Mercia?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I feel that everybody here will support it. It is understandable now. But I just want to say that Councilor Caulfield and myself perhaps come from the old school where our parents told us and taught us that if you don't have the money, if you don't have the cash, then don't buy it. If you don't have the money, then you don't need it. In this particular case, we need it, so we're looking to see, instead of bonding and creating an interest payment as well, then perhaps, that's why we're questioning it. But when you pay the cash, such as probably we did and was taught to do, that you don't get a credit card, you never establish the credit to begin with. So even though you paid the cash and you did meet all your bills, you just never established the credit because you never put anything where you had to pay the interest. So what's happening here is a different sort of financing whereby you establish a bond, you pay off in so many years, you establish like a good line of credit, which is a better bond rating so that you can get a lower interest rate. So it's a different form of what we've probably grown up with. I know maybe I should be just speaking for myself, but that's why we ask these questions, because we see it a little bit differently. But when you explain it that way, I kind of understand. No, you don't, Counselor? But, I kind of do.
Well, I appreciate that, Council. I
mean,
certainly
that's the only way I
understand
can analyze it. Sorry.
Thank you. Councilor Milonazo?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I plan on supporting the loan order as well, but I do have a question, actually two questions. One, we've actually projected or forecasted, I think was the term you used, Mr. Manager, we've actually forecasted for this loan order in the numbers that we actually recently received, as I recall, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. And secondly, it does talk about design and implementation, so maybe through you to Mr. Young, how much of it is actually implementation? Or maybe how much is design, how much is implementation?
Of the 1.9?
Of the 1.9, yes, sir.
Over half is.
Really? Okay.
Yes.
And the
The
time...
largest portion is obviously to go for the modifications to our aeration system to address the odors from that process at the facility.
And will we see some of that work done actually this fiscal year?
We're hoping to have a bid out as soon as possible. Obviously, we're not going to be able to do any work this summer, but I'm going to be very pleased to be able to tell residents that it is being addressed and that work will start hopefully in the fall or early or late winter.
Great, thank you.
Further questions? Roll call.
Councilor Donahue?
Yes.
Councilor Elliott?
Yes.
Mayor Martin?
Yes.
Councilor Arman Mercia?
Yes.
Councilor Rita Mercia?
Yes.
Councilor Milonazo?
Yes.
Councilor Ramirez?
Yes.
Councilor Broderick?
Yes.
Councilor Caulfield?
Yes.
9 yeas.
9 yeas, the loan order is approved. Next public hearing is a petition from Verizon for 10 feet of conduit in Smith Street. Anybody here from Verizon? Okay. Councilor Donahue?
If
Well,
they're
we
not
op-
here, did you open the public hearing?
Well, yeah, we'll open the public hearing for the hearing on Smith Street, 10 feet of conduit from Verizon.
I'll move to recess unless we know there's some immediate
Yes.
Okay.
problem,
Motion to recess the matter
to notify them to be here.
for next week by Councilor Donahue, second by Councilor Arman Mercier. All those in favor of recessing the public hearing, say aye. Any opposed? We'll recess for 1 week, and the clerk will notify Verizon of that fact. Next item is an order, a 60-day trial for I'll read it. An order pursuant to Chapter 13 of the Code of Ordinances, City of Lowell, Massachusetts, concerning Section 13.6 thereof entitled Temporary Experimental Regulations. Temporary traffic regulations are implemented for a period of 60 days, whereas the City of Lowell desires to make temporary rules regulating traffic under the actual conditions for a period of 60 days. It was Chapter 13 of the Code of Ordinances, City of Lowell, Massachusetts, Section 13.6 thereof entitled Temporary Experimental Regulations, authorizes the City Council to make such temporary rules for a period not to exceed 60 days. Now therefore be adjudged and decreed by the City Council of Lowell as follows, effective upon passage and continuing for a period of 60 days thereafter, following temporary regulations are implemented on High Street, a handicap drop-off zone, and on South Street, a yield intersection. Second reading by title. an order pursuant to Chapter 13 of the Code of Ordinances, City of Lowell, Mass. Concerning Section 13(6) thereof entitled Temporary Experimental Regulations, Temporary Traffic Regulations are hereby implemented for a period of 60 days. Questions? Roll call.
Counselor Donahue? Yes. Counselor Elliott?
Yes.
Mayor Martin?
Yes.
Counselor Armin Mercia?
Yes.
Counselor Rita Mercia?
Yes.
Counselor Milonazo?
Yes.
Counselor Ramirez?
Yes.
Counselor Broderick?
Yes.
Counselor
Yes.
Caulfield? 9 yeas.
9 yeas, the regulations are approved. The next item is an appropriation transfer in order to meet fixed charges and current expenses of the City of Lowell for the year 2006-2007 is ordered by the City Council of Lowell as follows, that the amount of $1,200 is hereby appropriated to treasurer's salaries and wages overtime, and in order to provide for such appropriation, the above amount is transferred from treasurer's salaries and wages permanent to provide funds to cover 2 4-hour Saturdays for staff to catch up on workload. Order recommended and introduced by Bernard F. Lynch, City Manager. Motion approved by Councilor Rita Mercia, second by Councilor Milonazo. Roll call.
Counselor Donahue?
Yes.
Counselor Elliott?
Yes.
Mayor Martin?
Yes.
Counselor Armin Mercia?
Yes.
Counselor Rita Mercia?
Yes.
Counselor Milonazo?
Yes.
Counselor Ramirez? Counselor Broderick?
Yes.
Counselor Caulfield?
Yes.
9 yeas.
9 yeas, the transfer is approved. Subcommittee reports. Councilor Donahue.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We had a report tonight. The Public Safety Subcommittee met this evening and received, this was in response to a request that had previously been made by the council for the acting superintendent, Kenneth LaValle, to come in and report on issues, police issues. There have been, I guess it's since December that Chief LaValle took over, and to give the council a view of his first 3 or 4 months and what he has seen. He gave us, and the department, his command staff, the manager gave us a comprehensive report. Hopefully everybody got a copy of the PowerPoint that on their desks. It was detailed, informative, and yet, I believe, I hope it was televised. I think it was televised. But, you know, just touching on a few of the points that Chief LaValle brought out to our attention, you know, one of the issues we've talked about a lot is, you know, what is the current staffing of the Lowell Police Department? And when one takes into consideration people who are out or on military leave and the like, the staffing right now is down to 211 police officers, and that includes everybody, including, you know, Chief LaValle, right on through the entire police department, all superior officers and so forth. He did tell us that based on average, a city the size of Lowell in New England should have 280 police officers based on New England average, and we're at 211. So you can see there's a big difference between what the average is and where we're at. It's important because he also provided us with statistics based, you know, the FBI crime statistics for 2006, as well as, you know, an overview over the past 10 or 12 years. And if you look at the charts, in fact, in terms of major crimes, since 1996, pretty much the crime level has stabilized in many areas. But if you look at 1994, and this is on the second page of the PowerPoint, you'll see that when Lowell had very low staffing, and this was before the COPS program through federal grants, where over a period of years during the Clinton administration, we were actually able to add 100 police officers to the street in Lowell. But just prior to that, in 1994, when the staffing, according to Chief LaValle, was about 200, crime was much, much higher. And one of the concerns he expressed is with the dropping of personnel, we may see a rise in crime. And that's something that the police department is working very hard to avoid. But still, staffing is and remains a big issue in terms of the police department. One of the causes is, of course, the funding from those federal grants are no longer available. The other area that the chief talked about had to do with initiatives that they've implemented. That he spoke at length regarding the downtown initiatives in terms addressing some of the noise problems, over-serving of alcohol problems in the downtown, steps that the police department are taking, what steps that they intend to take, including meeting with the downtown business owners and neighbors to try and work on those issues. And other areas that the chief brought to our attention, drugs, obviously, when it comes to crime, not just drug crimes, but robbery, larceny, and all related crimes are on the uprise. And he did explain to the council that he is implementing partnerships agreements with both the federal government, FBI, as well as the Mass State Police, who are working hand in hand with the Lowell Police here on task force, whether it's cross-border initiatives or other task forces to address this very serious problem. He pointed out that the City of Lawrence did partner with both the federal government and state police to address their crime issue to great success, actually, if you looked at the statistics for 2005 in comparison where we are. And so that's a goal of the chief to address that and to work cooperatively with other branches of government to address the crime issues here in the city. There are some serious issues facing, although, Governor Patrick has done a good job in many ways in his budget. Other areas that he may be making cuts, the Shannon Initiative grant, eliminating that, as well as some of the community policing benefits that we've had. And so we can only hope that our legislature puts those back in, because it's critically important to the city of Lowell. And then lastly, and I'm just trying to touch on some of the highlights, but lastly, he did report to us, and the manager reported that the communication center, the 911 center that we've had so much discussion about, that there are really good affirmative steps being taken and in order to move that center to the garage area immediately adjacent to it, move the garage area to temporarily over by the arena. And this is really important, not just because this area is substandard in deplorable condition, but based on new requirements that the state is putting on the city as far as new computer equipment that must be installed by the end of this year. This center simply, as we know it, would not accommodate the wireless requirements that will go to getting 911 calls from cell phones, for instance, here in the city. Right now, a person who dials 911 from a cell phone, it goes through the state police and then to the city of Lowell. With this new equipment, by year's end, which, by the way, the city doesn't have to pay for, is being paid for by the state, but with the new equipment, a 911 cell phone call would be go directly to the Lowell Police, and they would be able to determine exactly where that call is coming from. So all of these are important, changes, but it will require us to move the whole center. And once one looks at this, and we saw, how it was almost impossible to redesign the center while it's going 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And even if you did, it's too cramped, it's too small, and it doesn't work. So I know there was and I'm sure Councilor Coffey will address it, a request made to see if there's any either Homeland Security grant money or any type of funds to assist us in this, because this is an emergency center. It's the police and fire. And it would seem that there should be some type of funding to help us make this center, workable, feasible, if not state-of-the-art. So that's a report of progress from Acting Superintendent LaValle, and I will turn it over to my colleagues so they may have more to add of the report.
Councilor Caulfield?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think Councilor Donohue has touched all the bases, but it was encouraging to hear from Chief LaValle that they're incorporating federal and state forces to help the city of Lowell combat crime. And the statistics were actually alarming. When you read that Lawrence and Cambridge has a population of 100,000 people. Lawrence has 71,000 people, and they have less crime than we do. And the chief indicated that the DEA has indicated that this is a hotspot for drugs in the region. And I want to commend Chief LaValle for initiating that extra help in the force, along with Sheriff DePaula and his staff as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Anything further on this report? Councilor Ramirez?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. If I may, under public safety and the discussion with staffing, Mr. Manager, can you give us an update as to what the status of the home rule petition that we sent down to the legislature is? Thank you.
Sure. The home rule petition has made it through the Senate Public Service Committee. It's, I believe, going to be voted on the Senate within the next week or so. Then it'll be moved on to the House, and we're expecting final action on that within the next, I'd say, month.
Thank you. Councilor Elliott?
I just wanted to add, I was impressed with the acting chief, LaValle, and his progress that he's made in the short time he has been there. And particularly in light of the 111F claims that have dropped dramatically over the last 5 or 6 months, down to, I believe, an all-time low of 15, which I think is a credit to to the law department, you, Mr. Manager, and clearly acting Chief LaValle. But more importantly, and I know a report is forthcoming, but not only is a number of officers down, the length of time that they have been on 111 is down from, I think the average is 12 to 18 months in the past, down to 3 to 6. The solicitor can, or the manager can correct me, but I think that's, progress in getting the officers the attention they need, as well as getting officers back in the street. So I thought that was good news, and the chief actually spoke to an initiative tonight downtown that I had filed a motion, so I'll speak to that when the motion comes up. So,
okay.
Thank you.
Motion to accept the report as a report of progress by Councilor Ramirez, second by Councilor Broderick. All those in favor say aye. Any opposed? The report is accepted. Additional subcommittee reports. Councilor Broderick.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We had a brief subcommittee meeting from the zoning subcommittee to take up 3 issues, primarily the fences for ballparks. There seemed to have been some confusion. I know I received some phone calls relative to whether it was passed or not. And after discussion, it is passed. It was passed last week as it was proposed by the council, excuse me, without changes, the changes recommended by the planning board. That was delayed for further discussion. Basically, we have the updated zoning book on our desk this evening. It's incorporated in here, and it was passed, so the Little Leagues can now go out and sell and put their signs up with permission of the Board of Parks. The issue was whether the Board of Parks would oversee it or we would codify it in writing in terms of what the requirements were. And the sense was that it would be better to leave it to the Board of Parks, let them deal with it as they see fit, and if they need us to codify it, they can let us know. Secondly, we dealt with the design review board issue that was brought forward 3 or 4 weeks ago. That was very confusing, very complicated, and as such, to be brief, it was we delayed action, sent it back to the to DPD for further review. It's one of those situations where it's kind of like an onion. The more you peel it, the more you get, and it's going to take some further review by DPD. And lastly, the third issue was it was actually voted on and passed last week, was the gross living area, 0.35 versus 0.30. Again, there was some confusion in terms of how what the measurement would be, what the effect would be, what the council is actually looking to do, and again, DPD went to work, did some homework, and the more they uncovered in terms of checking, with the stats from the assessor's office, the more questions arose, and some of the outcomes may not be what the council wants. So again, we delayed action, or recommend delaying action on reducing it. It right now in our book is 0.35, which is a reduction from 0.5. But the situation would be that there are somewhat modest homes that could be affected in terms of if they want to put an addition on, because of the way the living area is counted for zoning purposes. So there's been, the recommendation is not to take any further action. DPD is going to come forward with maybe 2 or 3 recommendations or 2 or 3 positions that we can make a recommendation on in the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor. Anything further, the zoning subcommittee? Motion to accept the report as a report of progress by Counselor Elliott, second by Counselor Milonazo. All those in favor say aye. Any opposed? The report is accepted. Additional subcommittee reports, Counselor Milonazo.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It's actually not a report, but an announcement. After conferring with Councilors Rita Mercier and Councilor Armin Mercier, we're going to have a rules subcommittee on April 24th to discuss the issue of the Lord's Prayer. So for those in our viewing audience, it'll be the 24th at 5:30.
And that meeting will start with the Lord's Prayer.
Okay. Thank you, Counselor. Any additional subcommittee reports? Okay, hearing none, we'll move to the motions. First motion is by Counselor Elliott. The City Council requests the City Manager and Acting Police Chief report on late-night disturbances in the downtown area. Second by Counselor Rita Mercier. Counselor Elliott.
The chief did report at the Finance Subcommittee, I hope it was televised for people out watching, on what he is doing, what he has done, and what he plans to do. Essentially, he is putting additional officers downtown, and he proposed working with the state police and other agencies to bring additional staff in at that point in time. So I won't reiterate what has already been said, but it's good to hear that things are taking place, because quite frankly, people are getting very concerned and they're alarmed as to the activity that's taking place late night downtown. Part of his recommendation was also to meet with the downtown organizations and barroom owners to put together in place, or at least to suggest some ideas to sort of clamp down on of serving alcohol or over-serving alcohol. So the motion really has been addressed, so appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor. All those in favor of the motion say aye. Any opposed? Motion's approved. Next motion by Counselor Elliott. City Council requests the City Manager have the traffic engineer meet with the Transportation Director for the Lowell School Department and develop a traffic parking plan for the McAvenue School. Second by Counselor Armin Mercier. Counselor Elliott.
One of the more dangerous intersections in the city, Mammoth Road and 4th Ave, particularly in light of the school that's there. There was a park there. The school did try to, or has implemented a new drop-off procedure with more, and I know this is inherent to other schools, but this one in particular does need attention, considering it's, it's a corridor right to the bridge that has, 25,000-30,000 cars that traverse it every day. So it's very dangerous over there, and in one of the more dangerous intersections in Pawtucketville. So the motion does speak for itself, but I think the school officials and particularly parents would appreciate something being done over there, whether it's using some of the parking. I think there's 16 spaces at the park during the day, and allow the residents or people using the park at night to use it, or no parking on one side of the road have been a suggestion, because right now parking on both sides, then you get 2 lanes of traffic, buses, children, it's chaos over there. So that's the motion. Thank you.
Thank you. All those in favor of the motion say aye. Any opposed? The motion's approved. Next motion by Councilor Caulfield. The City Council requests the City Manager report on the status of the collections of delinquent taxes, water, sewer bills, trash bills, etc. Second by Councilor Milonazo. Councilor Caulfield.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. I think the motion speaks for itself, but in the report, we received the financial management review from the Department of Revenue. Very interesting on page 15, Mr. Manager. According to the auditor's general ledger balance sheet, there's over $3 million in real estate taxes dating back to 1990, $503,000 in personal property taxes dating back to 1992, $4.4 million in motor vehicle excise dating back to 85, $17,000 in boat excise taxes. And in addition, Lowell has over $8 million in tax title and foreclosure accounts. So there's quite a bit of money that's out there. I know that the law department is researching that and doing everything they can, but if we could get a list of the outstanding tax delinquents, water bills, real estate taxes, etc., and give them to the Lowell Sun, let them publish them, and let's see what we can do about receiving some of that money. It's desperately needed and so forth, so.
Thank you, Counselor. Mr. Manager?
Counselor, we will do that. We do post the delinquent, the tax title properties in the newspaper, but we can certainly prepare that report and then let the Lowell Sun have a
We've done that in the
copy of
past,
as well.
Mr. Manager, and whether it works or not, I don't know, but some of those people, they have no conscience, and...
Absolutely.
And...
I will say that the points you make out of the DOR report are ones that we are concerned about as well, and we had long discussions with the DOR on this, that there really is what we found is that there are some collection issues that we need to be more aggressive in tracking these down. Some of them, we may not have great success in getting them, but unfortunately they've slipped through the cracks through the years. So we're going after all of that. We're putting in place the necessary systems with the financial team that we've put together, and we will be addressing that. So, but thank you for bringing that up.
I know we have on the books, there's a law in the books that if you owe back taxes, you can't receive a building permit, any permits at all. And how can anyone renew their license if there's that much money owed to the city in excise tax?
Well, this is why the Kelly and Ryan that we brought on is very aggressive in tracking much of this down. There are ways that people find around the system, unfortunately, and they're experts at handling that. Yep. So we are pursuing all of these, and we'll have a more formal and final report on this, or perhaps not final, but a more formal report on this in the near future.
Thank you.
Councilor Elliott?
I was just going to follow up with what the manager said. I was curious how that contractor, what success we've had, because according to the Department of Revenue, Melinda Ordway, that Kelly and Ryan is, the best in their field.
Yeah.
They have the databases, they have the resources to go back multiple years through, whether it's, to really go back and track what the city doesn't. I'm curious what success we've had in trying to recover or recoup some of that 4.4 million that goes back, to some cases 15, 20 years that, are still on our books.
Right. We can get your report on that, Councilor.
Okay.
I'll make a note of that to consider that a motion to.
Okay, thank you.
Into.
Okay, I believe that concludes the agenda. Motion to adjourn by Councilor Broderick, second by Councilor Milonazo. All those in favor say aye. Any opposed? Meeting stands adjourned.
Who gets it? I don't think anybody gets it.